Now on to education matters. The Principal and Vice-Chancellor of the University of South Africa, Professor Puleng LenkaBula, is visiting Namibia at the invitation of the University of Namibia. Professor LenkaBula is engaging in high-level discussions aimed at strengthening academic, research and innovation partnerships between the two institutions. Now, during her visit, she joined UNAM leadership and international partners at the Gamsberg Mountain, amongst others. Professor LenkaBula joins us this morning to share insights into the purpose of her visit and expected outcomes. Good morning, Professor, and thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, Janet. Good morning, listeners. I'm truly honored to be here.
Wonderful.
Thank you very
Now,
much.
Prof, let's just start with the main purpose of the visit and why is this moment important for a collaboration between UNISA and UNAM?
I'm quite appreciative that the University of Namibia, which is one of the excellent universities in the Southern African region, but also in the continent, is a partner to the University of South Africa. In 2023, we signed an agreement to collaborate to enhance research and to ensure that Southern Africa is represented in science systems, complex science, in the country, in the continent, but also in the world. And part of that was to say, how do we ensure that science, research, engaged scholarship, but also the students that we create become leaders in the areas that they are trained in, and especially the impact in the world. And also to look at the complex sciences that the African continent has not been to be strong on, but which are very important and based on some of the resources within our continent. And the African millimeter telescope is one of the projects in advance of space sciences and astronomy, but also the intersecting disciplines that can help Namibia, South Africa, the continent to advance, especially in astronomy and space sciences.
Now, you visited the Gamsberg Mountain and you signed the UNISA-UNAM agreement linked to the Africa millimeter telescope that you just touched on now. How does this project represent African science and why is Gamsberg such an important site?
So you'd know that astronomy is quite central in space sciences to multiplicities of issues, and this one is really about radio frequency systems, trying to find the black hole, trying to be the first, precisely because of the geographic and contextual asset within the continent. And Gamsberg Mountain is one of the most beautiful sites, and it's not just about the aesthetics, it's well located to make sense of the research that our colleagues are undertaking. And we did that because if you think about it, the first graduate in astronomy, radio astronomy, in Namibia was just recently produced, and through this collaborative outcome. The postdoctoral fellows that we're training at UNISA have also been mentored and supervised by collaborative participants within UNAM, UNISA, to try to ensure that these knowledge areas that are not as subscribed in our countries are developed. And I'm very appreciative that Professor Matengu and I took a deliberate decision that we're going to invest in these sciences. We're going to finance, we're going to ensure that there's budgeting, we're going to speak to our governments to ensure that these sciences that help in data sciences, astronomy, engineering capacities, as well as our footprint in these space sciences issues become important. And we have done so. UNAM has contributed financing. We have contributed financing. UNAM has bought Gamsberg, the research site. We are contributing financing, but also intellectual resourcing. We request our societies to see why this is important. It's important that when you take your phone and take a picture, to know that science that has contributed to such it comes from Namibia, it comes from South Africa. It's also important when the scientists are dealing with complex issues such as, is there life in the moon? Are the stars confluence of particles that we must know? How do we relate with climatic changes and so on? And what is the data that's available in the sky, in the moon, in space, and associated environments? That we know that we have our own academicians, our own students, postdoctoral fellows, doctoral fellows who are doing such research, and that's what the research is going to enable us to pivot Africa into space sciences and into astronomy.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Now, from your engagements over the past 2 days, what other outcomes and commitments, apart from those that you've mentioned, have emerged between UNISA and UNAM?
So we commit to producing at least 10 doctoral candidates or graduates in these areas, because as I said, Namibia just had one. We had a few, but we need to be participating in this area. So we have agreed that UNISA, UNAM, and our partners, Radboud, Oxford, Max Planck, and others, we can work together to ensure that we accelerate the training of the first 10 cohort to strengthen the capacity that we already have. The second commitment that we have made is we've made the commitment to speak to our presidents, the president of South Africa, the president of Namibia, to really see science diplomacy as an important imperative for positioning our countries, our continent, but also in advance of our national development plans. The third outcome that we look into is in 10 years' time, when the telescope would be functioning, when the decisions, whether artificial intelligence, data management, or associated decisions are taken by our states, by the continent, you'd know that the research derived from there. But it is also to advance economic transformation of our society. When such a large telescope is installed here, there's engineering capacity that will be improved. There's economic development in terms of the infrastructure that will be built. There'll be exchange of scientists that will require a sense of science tourism or science engagement. So we are hopeful that these multiplicities of outcomes will be relevant, impactful, transform the contribution of Namibia and South Africa to the global knowledge landscape, but also will represent the best of Namibia and the best of South Africa in the global knowledge arena and innovation and economic transformation. Yes.
Now, Prof, you've touched on how, this agreement between the two universities will benefit, science and just advancing it. Now, looking to the future, how do partnerships like this position other African universities in global science and innovation?
So you're lucky here in Namibia because Professor Matengu is the president of African Association of Universities. So all the 400 or 500 plus universities in the continent, he has the privilege and opportunity to lead. So the partnership from UNISA and UNAM already extends into that arena of sharing examples, best practices, skills, reskilling, investing in research without dependency on our friends, whether in the East or in the West, but ensuring that a strong partnership model undergirded by the African Charter, where we come to research partnerships with our friends in Asia, with our friends in Europe or America as partners, not a hierarchical system. So I'm appreciative that that's the first impact. The continent is going to benefit. As it is now, from this project, we are already impacting on basic education and secondary education by exposing youth and young adults, understanding our continent has a youthful dividend, to maths and science and creatives and the social sciences or humanities that are associated with these sciences. So our impact is not just on the complex sciences, it's also on the inspirational level. If you know that Hiko is the first astronomer produced by Namibia, and he's less than 35 years, I'm sure as a young person, that's a person you'd want to align or associate with. So the impact is multi-generational, is multidisciplinary, It takes into consideration the advance of science to transform economy, to create wealth, to generate science diplomacy and presence for our countries. And I think I'm hopeful because the outcomes are already evident, even though we're just starting investing in the second phase.
Now, just before we let you go, any parting words, Professor?
I'd like to thank the Namibians for the partnership with South Africa. Our leaders, both from SWAPO and the African National Congress, fought for the liberation of the people of South Africa and the people of Namibia. That emancipatory project of our forebears who fought for our dignity, for me and you to have the opportunity to choose the leaders we want, to get quality education, to invest in the progress and advance of our countries and continent, and to ensure that Agenda 2063 is not just theory, but it finds expression in our practice and in transforming poverty, inequality, the challenges of climatic changes, the idea that Africans must not be dependent on others, but must use the assets that reside within our countries for the betterment of our society. And the fact that women must never be shy to take leadership of business sector, media sector, university sector, and partner with men who are progressive. Our partnership is very progressive, and we are hoping as universities will make more indelible impact that our societies will be proud of. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Professor.
Thank you very much.
That was Professor Puleng LenkaBula, who was in Namibia for a joint agreement between UNISA and UNAM in advancing science